all right. You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And that is the second time I've done that intro. Because I started it the same way on Patreon, thinking I was doing this 70 episode number 70. But then Kelsey was like, nope. Remember, we just talked about that. We are doing the other one.
Yeah. To be fair, we did notes for both of them and we're recording them just a few days apart. So we did have notes ready. So we really could have recorded whatever one, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what was screwing me up.
Yeah. But that was the August Patreon and this is the first episode for September. So
I know. We had to do it that way or else we get behind and that's not fun.
yeah.
It's like, no. All right. So, yes, this is episode 70, where we go through some 70's high strangeness. I don't know.
Yeah.
70's shenanigans.
I definitely have some shenanigans.
Okay. I have some strangeness and some unexplained, sort of. Yeah. And if you want, I can start off with a fun fact because I have a little list sometimes that I remember to refer to.
Sure, I would love a fun fact.
This is that a meteor exploded over Earth with the force of 10 atomic bombs, and everyone missed it.
Really?
So they tell me.
Wow.
Because apparently when a meteor hit our atmosphere on December 18th, 2018, and exploded with a force that was 10 times the energy of the Hiroshima atomic bomb, it wasn't discovered by NASA, whatever, scientists until after the fact. Turns out it went largely undetected because it took place over the Bering Sea in an area that was close but not directly on the path of commercial planes flying between North America and Asia.
Oh, wow.
So it's just kind of out there, I guess.
Yeah, nobody knew for a while then. That's cool.
Yeah, not a lot going on out in the Bering Sea. If only planes somewhat going overhead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, we might have two completely different things this time. That's the fun of not giving it a really strict theme.
Yeah. I'm excited for yours though. I think when I was looking up weird stuff that happened in the 70's, after you'd told me what your case, like just the name of the person involved, I saw his name come up a couple times accidentally. So, and I tried not to read, but sometimes it's like a headline.
Yep.
But...
Oh yeah, it is a pretty famous case too in the paranormal world. So yeah, I'm not surprised. It's okay. It comes up and stuff. Like I think, yeah, I was reminded that it happened in the 70's when looking at a listicle article of things that happened. It's like, oh yeah, that fits the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. I remember hearing that story and being pretty impressed, but I don't know. I couldn't save it for after. If you want to go first, because I really want to know what yours is too. I don't think I have any idea.
Yeah, I can go first. Sure.
Yeah, did you give me any clue? I don't think you did. I'm in the dark.
I think when we recorded our Patreon, I just said mine was more of a listicle kind of thing I ran across.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a collection of little short, kind of random and more bizarre headlines or stuff that was going on than in the 70's as opposed to like supernatural or paranormal things that were necessarily going on. So these are some just like weird things that people were doing in the 70's.
Yeah, and that I might not have come across before.
Yeah. I know I didn't really know about any of these, so it was a lot of fun to read a bunch of headlines about what was going on. Most
Oh,
of my stuff was from weirduniverse.net. For
oh, nice. I like
they
that.
had
That sounds like a good website.
yeah, it has each decade you can click into, and it tells you a bunch of random little blurbs about some of the headlines that were going on. And then I also got some information from societyofrock.com.
Okay,
Yeah.
Society of Rock.
Yeah, I think that was just a little bit at the end.
Sorry. Okay, nice. I'm
Um,
intrigued.
yeah. So my first one was a bill that was passed through the Texas legislature that would require criminals to give advance notice to their intended victims before they perpetrated a crime against them.
This is some sort of technology that's gonna do this? Sorry?
No, it's a bill. Like,
Oh,
yeah, in the
they're proposing
legislature.
that's gonna. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Uh,
Sure.
so it was proposed, yes, or they filed it, that would require criminals in Texas to give their intended victims 24 hours notice. It was an amendment to the Texas Criminal Code and makes it separate offense to commit a crime of violence without first notifying the intended victim, giving the time, place, and nature of the crime to be committed. Uh,
Okay, well, it's not Minority Report, and we don't have precogs to tell us what
yeah,
pre-crime is gonna happen.
it's
Oh my
yeah.
god.
It said obviously the criminal is not going to do it, but this would be another punishment that could be added to the penalty. Uh, and then it just said
What?
the state Republican Jim Castor that put it forward said people are treating it as if it's a big joke, maybe, but I'm going to push it. I'm not
Okay.
optimistic about its passage with all the lawyers we've got around here, but damn it, if it's fair enough for the criminal, it's fair enough for the victim. Um, and
Okay.
this is like a snippet of the article. It continues on saying that from the bill, the notification may either be written or oral and must come 24 hours before the crime is to be committed. And the bill also requires that the intended victims be informed of their rights. Which,
Okay. You have the right to a lawyer before I murder you, kind of thing?
yeah,
Oh boy.
yeah, it's
This
kind
is
of great.
insane. Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's another article about it too that they had on the Weird Universe. Uh, basically, the second article just says that uh, the senator, it wasn't his original idea, and it was originally advocated by late Wick Fowler or Fuller of Austin, the newspaperman of renown, who was also known as the Chili King of Texas, which just makes me think of like
Was he now?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Uh, Somebody being the sausage king of, I can't remember, like Chicago or something.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't recall.
So that occurred in like 1973. Um,
Okay, okay. Early 70s, yeah.
yeah.
There was a few things that happened that year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like
My next
weird things, yeah. Sorry.
my next little thing is just entitled Marty the Marijuana Mouse.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. I can only guess where this is going, but it's given me a little bit of a clue.
So, Marty the Mouse became famous in 1974 after made a home for himself in a box of marijuana stored in the evidence room of the San Jose, California police station.
So it snuggled up in there.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Police were only able to lure him out by baiting a trap with marijuana seeds. He had previously ignored bacon, peanut butter, cheese, and a female mouse named Maida Harry. That's a terrible name.
Could be Matahari. She was like I want to say like a belly dancer.
Is the last name spelled Harry?
Hari?
No, it's
Yeah.
Hairy. Harry.
Oh, well, I think it might be a play, like a pun.
Harry. Maybe.
Yeah, because she was like this
so.
seductress type, whatever,
okay.
from like India, I think. Yeah. Hang on. I'm pretty sure. That's so funny, though. It's like,
yeah.
Not a hair. Yeah. Exotic dancer. Oh, not Indian. Dutch. I'm sorry. Dutch exotic dancer and courtesan who was convicted of being a spy for Germany during World War One.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty cool. That's funny.
Fun with the name.
I know, I love that they named her.
So the mouse, he became known as Marty the Marijuana Mouse. And instead of killing him, I guess when they finally captured him, he was first sent to UCLA in order to aid in studies of marijuana. And he was returned to San Jose, where he became a police mascot.
Fenrir! Sorry. I can hear him whining. I wonder if he's looking for a new place to hide his bone. I apologize.
So sad.
He just had it tucked away in Rain's bathroom, so I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe somebody caught wind of it, so now he's afraid. He's gonna move it again. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, so he returned to San Jose and became a police mascot.
Sorry.
And
I apologize for the dog noises. Our mascot is very annoying. Speaking of hairy mascots.
it happens.
Yeah.
And Marty the Marijuana Mouse did sadly die in November of 1975, and the article said that the nation mourned.
But this was after he got out, so he died of like natural, non-marijuana related causes, right? Because
I assume so. Yeah.
I can't see him being able to actually consume enough to, like, you have to, you basically can't overdose on, you know what I mean? Like, you have to consume so much of it to make you sick unless it's, like, laced with something. That's so funny, though. I'm just, like, picturing this chill little mouse.
Right?
Like Cheech and Chong mouse.
Yeah, so on the little article it had in like the blurb about it, it said that he was transferred to a holding cage and a booking sheet was used to charge him with possession of marijuana, use of narcotics, and destruction of evidence, which is kind of cute. They charged him off.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's not the first time I've heard about animals being brought to trial, but it's pretty bizarre that people ever went to that trouble.
Right? It said, now Marty will compensate for those months of stealth by contributing to science. And Dr. Ronald Siegel of UCLA's Center for Health Sciences wants to study Marty, who, quote, appears to show the effects of the narcotics he's been eating. And then Sergeant Aubrey Perrott, who observed, quote, he's strung out.
Oh.
Yeah.
He just wants to relax, man. He's like, I'm the dude. No. Oh my god.
So I'm like, yeah. Yeah, these were so fun to look up. My next one, I had never heard of this. The little blurb about it said there was apparently a glass eating kind of epidemic happening in the 1970s. And
Say what? Okay.
right. There isn't much about this one. So it said in the thing I read that it was basically the Tide Pod challenge of the 1970s.
Okay, yeah, that was my only thought was that, well, people just do dumb things sometimes just to try and, like, I don't know, look cool, build street cred.
Yeah.
I told you Ressa was training herself to put out matches on her tongue for a little while when she was young.
God,
like, we were teenagers. Yeah.
That's scary.
All I ever did was try and teach myself to tie the cherry knot in a stem.
Yeah.
In a knot, but it's like, it's not pretty.
No.
Yeah.
So, apparently this all started because the Philadelphia Eagles all-pro linebacker Tim Rosovich, he showed the public he was so tough that he could eat glass from beer mugs.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so that's what
mean,
started
He could
this.
be in the circus then, but that doesn't mean everybody should do it. Oh my God.
So then there was a Harvard student who wanted to prove that Rosovich wasn't so special, so he decided to eat glass and he ate a light bulb.
Like Uncle Fester.
Yes. So it kind of became a fad among university students, and eventually the authorities had to step in and kind of put a stop to it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So hopefully that went well. I don't have any more information about it, but if anybody knows about this, let us know.
If not, it just rid us of some people we don't want procreating in society.
Right?
Oh.
In the next one is in March of 1975. There was a Dr. Richard Cimbalo of Rosary Hill College, and he held an exhibition of, quote, rat art. And this was art that was weird.
I know.
It was...
Now he looks like he's wants out. My work here is done. Sorry.
He wanted to, so he had an exhibition of rat art, and
Rat art.
yeah, it was art that was painted by rats.
Oh.
Yeah. And
I was almost picturing when you have like in that movie where Steve Carell was dressing up all the little mice and taxidermied into little characters.
oh,
Stop.
is that the dinner for schmucks?
Yeah.
So he was doing this exhibition in order to raise money for the school's psychology department.
Okay.
Yeah. He said the rats painted by grabbing with their front paws a brush extended into their cages, and Cimbalo said each of the artists, or rats, had its own style.
Don't they give elephants little paintbrushes too and sell them for raising money? Yeah, I'm like, that's cute.
Yeah, apparently there was 10 artists. They hoped to sell them all. One professional artist who viewed the exhibit, unaware that who had done the work, so that it had been painted by rats, said that the paintings showed obvious talent and promise. And yeah, Dr. Cimbalo just said that the artist wishes to remain unnamed, so that's how they got away with it.
The rat wishes to be unnamed?
That's what he said to them when they asked who the painter was. But I didn't put any pictures on the drive, but there is kind of a cute little picture. It's basically a little like almost hammock or like sling that he would put the rat into, and then the rat kind of like holds the paintbrush, it seems, in its like mouth, and then he holds the paper and then the rat's painting. It's pretty cute. It basically just looks like squiggly lines, but it's pretty cute.
And then it gives me reverse Ratatouille vibes, because in that the rat's in the hat of the chef pulling his hair to make him a good cook.
My next one is is sucky, and that was that the elderly should lose the right to vote. This was basically,
Oh, like a maximum voting age kind of
basically,
thing? That's pretty rough.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Back in 1970, Douglas P. Stewart, professor of classics at Brandeis University, made headlines for advocating that the elderly should lose the right to vote. And his thesis was, quote, "The old, having no future, are dangerously free from the consequences of their own political acts, and it makes no sense." Right?
Sorry, I couldn't even hold myself until you were done. Okay.
It makes no sense to allow the vote to someone who is actuarially unlikely to survive and pay the bills for what he may help elect. Terrible.
I mean, that's just, that opens the door for all sorts of voter discrimination.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd be like, oh, well, they don't contribute to society in this way, so they shouldn't be allowed to vote. It's like, no. That's
how
not
very,
how this works.
midsummer of you.
Yeah, and it's hard enough taking away the driver's licenses from the elderly. We saw that firsthand working at the place we did, because it's like with the and when you're in a registry's office, and that's what they do. They have to take away driver's licenses when, you get so old you have to get a medical done, and that makes sense. That's only fair. You're on the road.
My thing is always like, if you can no longer properly turn your head to shoulder check, then I think you're done. Like, I'm sorry. Sure.
And that could even be because of a handicap versus,
Yeah.
Like, it's tough. But it's for everyone's safety.
Yeah. Like, people forget that, like, driving is like a privilege and everything like that, and it's such a dangerous vehicle, like, that you're operating and everything on a daily basis. Yeah.
It's not like people that are voting, we know they're voting with the best of intentions and, like, all informed and everything. You know what I mean? Like, you literally don't have to do anything to qualify to vote, but, like, be of age and, like, live in the place.
Right. Yeah. Show up on the day of.
Not be in jail.
The last thing just that they had about this was that the Professor Stewart, if he's still alive, would be around 80 years old, like 83, they said, but I don't know when this was posted. So it just said, I wonder if he's still voting. Which, I mean...
Well, yeah.
Right? So easy to take away someone else's rights, but when you're facing the exact same thing, do you still agree with it? Probably not.
Yeah, and anytime anyone's complaining about children or the elderly, it's like, you were there or you will be there if you're lucky enough.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It's all the human life cycle.
Yeah.
Holy. It's not shocking, sorry, but
no,
you know what I mean?
No,
like,
it's not.
Shit that goes on, like, holy fuck. I don't know.
My next one is, I think we talked about, maybe it was Kinky Crimes in some point, we talked about, like, something being an aphrodisiac.
Maybe. Okay.
Something, like, fairly recently we talked about. But I found an article that was about peanut butter being an aphrodisiac. Uh,
Well, I thought it just gives you energy, so I mean, I could see it in that
right?
regard.
Well, they do say, like, one spoonful of peanut butter or something a day has, like, enough protein in it for you for the day. I remember
Wow.
hearing that from when I was doing, like, the 30-hour famines to, like, raise money and stuff like that, or when they were doing
Oh, yeah.
donations, um,
And
for
then you're
stuff.
talking about it when you're starving. You're
Yeah.
like, I would just kill for a scoop of peanut butter then.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So in 1971, apparently it was widely reported that a girls' high school in Johannesburg, South Africa, had actually banned peanut butter due to a concern that peanuts were a sexual stimulant,
Okay.
which I can't say I ever had the thoughts about peanuts or peanut butter in that way, but
You're like, oh my god, it's so close to the word penis. I'm just getting so hot.
I'm gonna go
Yeah,
make
when
myself
people
a penis and jam sandwich. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's like the whole cornflakes or whatever. They were
Yeah,
supposed to just be so boring so that people couldn't possibly get sexually excited. It's just like, who makes these leaps in logic?
right? Uh, it said this news, of course, was met with kind of in like bizarre fashion by the American press. And given the lack of details in this story, for instance, the school never being named, they suspected it might be an urban legend reporting in the news. However, in a New Scientist article published 2 years later in November of 1973, the individual was able to find some more information which suggested that the story was true and that the ban was inspired by local African belief about peanuts. Um, and they said, quote, this command has been traced by local health officials to a traditional taboo among the native tribal population, which regarded both peanuts and eggs as sex stimulants and therefore forbade their
Oh.
consumption by the young and unmarried. So I guess you can't eat eggs either.
And here I was just letting my kid eat all the peanut butter cookie dough filled with peanut butter and eggs. Literally, we just made some cookies.
But I'm
I mean,
like, when.
so stupid.
I mean, sure, I can give you peanut butter, but like eggs. Now you're into eggs. How do you make eggs sexy? I don't know.
This is just a smear campaign against the eggs. Somebody's just out to get them, doesn't like them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I used to
Alfred
hate them when I was younger.
Oh, I think Alfred Hitchcock was afraid of eggs. He's like disgusted by
Oh.
them or something. Isn't it? Oh, now I have to
have
Google
no
it because if it's
idea.
not him, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm stupid. I'm so sorry. My egg facts. Yeah, he said on breakfast, I'm frightened of eggs, worse than frightened. They revolt me. That white round thing without any holes. Have you ever seen anything more revolting than an egg yolk breaking and spilling its yellow liquid? Blood is jolly, red.
What? He has the opposite of whatever that uh phobia is, where people are afraid of things with holes, like honeycombs and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Golf balls.
He has the opposite of that. He likes things with holes.
That's so gross. And even just saying that, he likes things with holes. Oh man, we're doing some hot takes tonight.
We
But
might
yeah,
have
isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's so weird. There might be a hot take on this next one, funnily enough. And that was the vibrating brazier. And
Oh.
yeah.
I
There's
talked
an
about a lot of vibrating last week.
March of 1971. This just basically had like two sentences, but there is a picture of like the model of it, and it basically looks like two, like the coil burner stoves. It has like the
Yeah.
coil. It's basically the back half of a bra with the straps, and then instead of the cups, it's basically two of the coils, and then there's like a weird thing in the middle that looks like a giant like remote control kind of thing.
Maybe that's what Madonna was hiding in her cone bras in the
Right?
80s.
Uh, so it says among the products featured in the 20th International Show of Inventions in Brussels was the vibrating brazier, consisting of two spiraling metal bands connected to a small electric motor worn on the back. The device, its creator claimed, strengthened and developed the bust. Don't really know how.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, I just like the picture of it. It just looks so funny. Uh,
Oh my god.
we'll post it. It'll be on the website.
Yeah, it sounds like one of Phil Dunphy's inventions when he's like, the
Yeah.
head scratcher TM, and then it just like gets stuck into your hair.
Oh, terrible. They do on Bob's Burgers. They had an ongoing thing for multiple episodes where what? I think Bob did it first. He called it the spice rack or something. No, that was Linda's. Linda's was the spice rack, and it was basically spice, like regular spice jars, that attached and went across your chest, and she called it the spice rack. And then Bob,
Okay.
I can't remember what his was called, but it was like on his arm. So it was like armbands, like floaty devices, but they were spices. I can't remember what his was called.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, just when you
Kinda like
mentioned terrible inventions, I was like, yes, the spice rack.
Or like they have a bandolier like full of spices, like those things that usually hold bullets that go across you.
Yes.
Like the straps.
It's basically that, but she puts it like just across her chest, and she's like, it's a spice rack. All right. That's great.
Wow, just what I always needed.
Right?
A spice rack that I carry like a bra.
Yeah, on top of my boobs. So it's just like sticking out so far and probably super annoying.
Right. Well thought out.
Yeah. One of my last ones is there was an article. I wish I could get more from this. There's no names. Oh, there might be names. It has a name at the very bottom. I didn't realize that until now. There's like a little infographic thing.
Okay.
Anyway, her name may be Olive Russell, age 53. She was awarded $23,000 in court damages for a bingo accident that she said ruined her sex life. Which I thought
Bingo.
was... Right? It's just bizarre.
Okay.
She sued the bingo hall after her chair collapsed during a game, and that caused her to fall on the ground and hurt her back and her head. And
okay. Well, that sucks.
yeah, as far as I know, she didn't fall onto the bingo dabber or anything.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Which
like,
was my
what's this
first.
final destination situation.
Yeah, right?
Oh.
On account of...
I heard a story at work once about someone that sat on one of those, those pokey things that like people used to stick receipts on at like restaurants. So it's like a just
no.
a sharp thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our
Oh
old
my
receptionist Sandy was telling me about she knew a woman that like sat her butt cheek right down on one of those. I was like, oh my god.
That's awful.
Yeah, it would just stab you right in the butt.
Yeah. Oh, I just got like a shiver down my spine. No.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Oh.
Ugh. Yeah.
So, she's claiming that because of these injuries, she had lost sexual interest in her husband because her back and her head hurts.
Interesting.
So, the funny thing is she got $23,000 in damages, and then the court also awarded her husband $115.
$115?
Yeah, she got like $23,000, and he got $115.
Oh my god.
Which I think is great.
I just don't even know what to say. It's like frivolous lawsuits, probably.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah.
could she have head trauma? Maybe, but like, I don't know. Then
Yeah.
I don't know. Does it need that you get that much money? And like, you have to specifically say it's because it presented in lack of sexual motivation. Like, what?
Yeah, that's the confusing part. I don't really.
Yeah. So many questions.
My last little thing is just when I was looking up stuff, there was some lists about just random things in pop culture or the true crime world that were happening in the 1970s, because a lot of things talk about how, like, politically and just what was going on in the world, it was just such a strange decade.
Right. Yeah, like just in general, the climate.
Yeah. So out of the list, some of the lists I read, just wanted to talk about, like, in the 1970s, you had the arrest of Ted Bundy, the son of Sam, and Charles Manson,
Okay.
among probably
like,
many, many others.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty scary to think there's so many serial killers on the loose.
Yeah. There was the Jonestown Massacre in the 70s.
Oh.
During this decade, the Beatles broke up. And
they have enough conspiracy theories around them too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Saturday Night Live, or Saturday Night as it was called at the time, that debuted in the 1970s.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's old. And I think after researching this and like looking that up, I basically spent the last week watching montages of the funniest moments of SNL on YouTube. Like, whenever I'm bored, I just look up somebody's weird compilation. And yeah, it's been pretty fun.
It really gives you a glimpse into the times, eh?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily the ones in, like, the 1970s, but just in general, like, the best of SNL. It's pretty good.
Yeah. For sure. But yeah, they're always, like, talking about what's going on in the world and just making fun of the people of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's my segment. So,
Oh, holy shit.
yeah, just
I love
some
it.
random stuff. I never really ran across, like, a specific paranormal thing that was going on that I wanted to talk about. And then I started finding these kind of wacky headlines about random stuff that people were doing. It seems fun. I mean,
Yeah, I like that because it's like stuff I didn't know about, like glass eating epidemics and just where else would I have found out about that?
yeah, just sounds like the 70s had its some good moments and a lot of bad and strange moments.
Yeah, I think few things I read talked about stuff like that too, how people were feeling in different places, like just like, well, there was still, you know, the Cold War for so long that people were like scared about what Russia was going to do, and it's like, oh wow, times are cyclical, like
Yeah.
Now people are still scared of what else Russia's gonna do, 20,
Yeah, exactly.
50 years later. 20, I'm like, however many. 50
Right?
years later or whatever, yeah.
I cannot do math when it comes to what year like it is. They always talk
I
about
need,
online where you're like, oh,
yeah.
2015, it will always be like 2 years ago. And they're like, it's 7 years ago. And you're like, no, it was 2 years ago.
I know I always need somebody's birth date as a reference to go, oh, okay, well, if they're this old or I'm this old
Yeah.
and this, you know what I mean? I literally need to think of it. Otherwise, it's really hard for me to do the mental math on it.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
sorry.
it's because we've come so freaking far in the last 200 years that
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just listening to something talking all about evolution and how, like, only in the last little while have we started to not eat so much. Like, we're still built to have, like, hunter gatherer bodies and eat, like, high protein
Hmm.
and stuff, but, we're really moving away from that and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, but then that's probably why sometimes it comes back, like, caveman diet and this and that. People are like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, this does work for our body type,
Yeah. I
I don't know.
I'll always have the belief a little bit of everything is probably like the best you can do, you
Like,
know?
yeah, unless
Yeah.
specifically it helps if you cut out foods and find you do better. I mean, all the power to you, but yeah, I think variety's good.
Yeah. Like if you want to have a cookie, have a cookie. Just don't eat like 70 cookies kind of
Which you
thing.
might if you deny yourself all the cookies all the
Yeah.
time.
I saw a thing, it was on, I think just Google News, I didn't click into it, that was talking about they now have huge correlations in people that have, uh, do like a cheat day and stuff, and they go
Yeah.
so hard on their cheat day, and these people have basically are like applauded for having an eating disorder and stuff at this point that which is
I
kind of
don't
like
know.
bad.
Like The Rock, he posts every time has his big cheat meals on Sundays, and they're like enormous. But I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's fucking enormous. So
Yeah.
like, oh, that's
But
too
for
bad. Why does
yeah.
everything have to be like so picked apart and judged?
Mhm.
Ugh, I don't know. That's what happens anytime you post anything personal or say anything personal. That makes
Yeah.
it out onto the internet. It's like people are gonna just pick it apart or whatever, I guess. But
Mhm.
whatever. To each their own. Just try and be
Yeah.
healthy.
Right?
Ugh. Well, quick break, guys, and then on to part two,
Yeah.
which is one big story. Not that
Woo!
big, but yeah.
Woo woo!
All right, we'll be right back. Hi, hello. We're back. Thank you for sticking with us for part two, where I bring you the story of the Travis Walton UFO encounter.
Yeah. I'm
Yes.
excited. I know nothing about this. I stayed clear other than knowing it was a UFO encounter.
Right, right,
So,
right, right, right. Yeah, I had learned about it from Pat and watching the interview with Travis Walton on he does like a 2 hour interview on Joe Rogan, and when I went to re-listen to it after I'd done my notes just to like make sure I got everything right, like hear him tell it
yeah.
in his own words and like just make sure like okay, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, this just came out in 2021 that he sat down with him, like, oh yeah, I've only known about this for the past year or so, but it still
Yeah.
fascinates me.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially thinking how far back some of these things go. It's like with Bob Lazar, that one went back decades too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's pretty cool. It was actually November of 1975. November 5th. Oh, remember, the 5th of November.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll never forget. 22-year-old Travis Walton was working as part of a 7-man logging crew in the Sitgreaves National Forest. Guess I didn't look that one up. Apologize. But that's how it's spelled. And this is near Heber, Arizona. So, they were all driving away for the night. So they're lumberjacks, basically. When you Google his name, that's what comes up first. Travis Walton, lumberjack.
Okay.
Yeah. Makes me think of the Monty Python has one, the lumberjack song. It's like, he's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day. But then it goes on to be like, he wears high heels, suspenders, and a bra. Like, it goes real unexpected.
I love it. I need to listen to it.
Oh, it's great.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's like, I wish I'd been a girly just like my dear papa. And I think even as the people are singing it, they're like looking around at each other like, wait, what?
It's great.
That's what I always think of when I hear the word lumberjack, so welcome to my brain.
It's a wonderful thing to think of.
Yes, gotta love that British humor. That's where we Canadians get a lot of our humor influence.
Yes.
Yeah, that dry shit. But anyway, so they were going home for the night. These lumberjacks, they were done for the day, ready to go home and like just unwind and have a beer or whatever.
Yeah.
Have a shower beer. And the driver of the truck was named Mike Rogers, and Travis happened to be riding shotgun, and the other 5 men were like in the back of the truck, whatever kind of truck it was. But they're, yeah, the 2 are in the front and the rest are in the back. And they hadn't gotten too far along the logging road when they suddenly saw something very strange. It was a, quote, bright, saucer-shaped UFO hovering about 20 feet over a clearing. So Mike stopped the truck as they all sat mesmerized by this craft and all its bright lights. Travis said later that, quote, I was awestruck and entranced by the beauty of the thing. I thought it would take off, but it didn't, and I didn't appreciate the danger I was in.
Yeah. Aliens.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you hear, like, what happens next, because they were terrified, they said later. Mike Rogers and also a guy named John Gillette, which was one of the other guys with them, said they saw Travis knocked to the ground by a bright blue-green light. So he jumped out of the truck. Like, Travis opened the truck door and got out. Mm-hmm. I guess I didn't say that, I'm sorry, and then he gets hit with this beam of light. The light was so bright from the craft that it lit up the forest around them like it was daylight. And the beam of light, specifically, they described as looking like a bolt of lightning or a blue flame.
Creepy.
Yeah, sounds like pretty intense.
Yeah.
So they take off in a panic, not sure basically if Travis is like alive or dead. And although they said they stopped the truck about a short distance away, about a quarter mile, and then went back for Walton, he was already gone. Yikes. So later, when he was asked if he blamed his coworkers for leaving him or held any animosity, Travis said no. He said, I didn't fault them. What Mike and the crew did was understandable, and they showed common sense. For them to come back that soon unarmed was heroic.
Yeah. I wouldn't hold it against if somebody abandoned me after I'd been abducted by aliens.
I mean, yeah, I know Mike stopped the truck, but then Travis is the one that got out, and everybody else was probably like, well, they were like, what are you doing? Like, you know?
Yeah.
And like, and then when they saw the beam hit him, they were like, it got him, it got him. Like, they didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. You have no idea.
No. But later, Mike said he felt like it was not heroic at all, and he should not have left him. So I think he felt some guilt. Even though, yeah, it's like, this was a first time for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, Travis was just gone. And then from what he could later recall, he woke up in like a clinical hospital style room on some sort of a table. You know, the norm, I guess.
Yeah.
And there were 3 extraterrestrials standing over him in orange jumpsuits. Because, you know, orange is the new black.
Yeah.
I might have included... No, I have some pictures, but there's some artistic renderings of that part that I guess I didn't include.
Oh, okay.
But you can picture it, you know, the little gray aliens wearing orange jumpsuits. He could recall being panicked and trying to fight off the aliens, and grabbed an object from a nearby table and brandished it at them. And remembers what looked like a human or a humanoid in a helmet that led him to another room. And he thinks that's when... And where a clear plastic mask was put over his face, and then he lost consciousness again. Didn't remember after that. Yeah. And then the next thing that he knew, he was dropped off by the side of the road, quite near where he had been taken. He could see the craft was taking off above him. And that seemed to be what he always said something like that. But there was maybe one other report I read that said that he woke up actually right in the forest with his clothes all on backwards.
Oh, okay.
But I'm pretty sure Joe asked him to clarify. He was like, yeah, I thought I saw some reports said like he woke up with no clothes on. He was like, no, he had all his clothes on. It was normal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, rumors, they spread.
Yeah.
So he then got up and ran for help, making it to a nearby gas station where he banged on the door, but nobody was in. So he used the payphone to call his family, and his parents or whatever came and told Travis then that he had been gone for 5 days.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Wow.
He had no idea it had been that long.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be pretty terrifying?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. I didn't really remember any of that time being gone. But when he was taken to the hospital, he was treated for dehydration. One thing I read said that he had a small puncture wound on his right arm, but I didn't hear him personally confirm that.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember him saying that he didn't have any marks on him, like any scorch marks on his chest where it looked like the beam had hit him or anything. But he had lost 12 pounds, and he had definitely grown a 5-day beard. So, yeah, his body showed signs of it being 5 days, obviously. The authorities were very happy to hear that Travis had returned, especially since they had basically suspected his coworkers of killing him or being involved in his disappearance.
Oh, that's terrible.
They went to the sheriff's office and said he had been abducted. And, like, what do you think the sheriff's response was?
Oh,
right? I mean, but what else do you do? There's 7 of you. You're like, or well, 6 at the time, I guess.
Yeah.
You're like we all saw it.
That's it. If you get abducted by aliens, I'm not going to the police. I'm sorry.
You don't want the scrutiny.
Yeah. I don't want to end up in jail.
Well, don't let people say getting a lawyer always makes you look guilty, because you know your rights, and everyone has a right to get a lawyer, even if they know they're
Yes.
innocent.
That's what almost every cop or somebody in law enforcement just says. If they ever ask to talk to you, even like
Yeah.
voluntarily, get a lawyer. Like,
Yeah, totally. I heard them say it on Sinisterhood, and Heather is a former lawyer, so I'm always like, damn
yeah.
girl, you know your rights.
Yeah, because they can just. Sometimes they'll just try and talk and like brainwash you into believing you did something you weren't involved with at all. Or,
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Coerce a
scary.
confession.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just confuse you into one, basically. It can
Yeah.
happen. Yeah. So yeah, even though they had gone straight to the sheriff's office with nothing to hide to report him missing, the sheriff had obviously conducted an extensive search. It said wanting to disprove their story, but like obviously wanting to find the truth too. Like you have to
Yeah.
search. Like that's just his job. Since much of the encounter could not be recalled by Travis, he had underwent regressive hypnosis to retrieve any repressed memories he had under the supervision of a Dr. James A. Harder. And three physicians and a psychiatrist were actually present for this procedure or whatever. And Dr. Harder said, beyond any reasonable doubt, the evidence is as valid as any that would be accepted in an American criminal court.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, he was then able to remember a little bit more like a numbing shock when the beam hit him. Though,
Mm.
from his recollection, he never saw a beam of light go into him at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was from the other witnesses with him that told him that it looked like it hit him in the chest area. So that was really weird. And then he remembered a few more details of the time on board the craft. He remembered how he had woken up on the table, like he knew, um, but that he had been held down by some sort of device over his chest. And that's what, like, specifically made him pretty scared. And that's when he just kind of panicked and started to grab whatever he could find to be like a weapon. It was just like this long cylinder thing, he said.
Mm. Weird.
Yeah. And the aliens were, yeah, pretty short, 4 to 5 feet tall, very pale with their large heads and large brown eyes, he said.
Oh, not black or.
I guess not. Which I thought was, yeah, a detail I didn't always hear. Brown eyes.
Yeah.
And I guess they had left him alone at one point because he remembers a little bit about wandering around the craft and exploring. He said he found a room that kind of resembled a planetarium, but that's interesting because, like, that shows you, you know, stars and stuff usually. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because, like that I read in an article, and that also he remembered seeing a star system right from the actual cockpit of the craft. So whether or not those were two different places or maybe just two different interpretations, not too sure.
Yeah.
Um, he remembers being taken by two human-looking people in blue jumpsuits to what might have been even another craft. It looked different, but he remembers at some point like having that clear mask put on him, and that he must have been put under anesthesia
Mm-hmm.
or something.
Yeah.
But like, I remember him saying to Joe Rogan that he was like, I'm sure that I think that they brought one out probably that looked more like a human just because it was something that was familiar to me, because he's like, I was terrified and panicking at that point, and it didn't seem like they wanted to hurt him, right? It seemed more like they had
Yeah.
him on there to try and help him because he had walked out and got hit by their damn beam.
But what was their beam doing out there anyway?
But also it is funny because, and it is like the only story you hear of when somebody like walks directly towards the UFO.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was some sort of anomaly where they're like, shit, god damn it, now we got hit with our tractor beam. Now what do we gotta do? We gotta fix this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. So Travis was also given a polygraph by police, just as his friends had been. One of the men in the group, Alan Dallas, had walked out of the test room when the test was being administered because he had felt like they were putting pressure on him to try and admit to some sort of wrongdoing.
Okay.
Because he and Travis had had an argument the very morning of the abduction.
Well, I'm pretty sure if you're gonna murder somebody, you wouldn't murder them in front of 5 other people.
Oh my god, right? Like,
That-
not that logical, guys.
Yeah.
But it was interesting the reason he gave when you actually listen to the interview, because he's like, oh yeah, we got in a fight that morning because I found out he told my girlfriend to leave me and go with him.
I mean, that would warrant a fight.
Right?
But, yeah, that's not a small thing, but still.
Yeah. So they were just like, motive.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the polygraphs, the other 5 men all passed, as well as Travis, even though obviously we know these things are very problematic.
Mm-hmm.
But, and he also said, Travis said he believed that the beam may have hurt or even like stopped his heart / killed him, and that they had brought him back to their craft to heal him and like be the EMTs on the scene.
Yeah,
of
that's what
thing.
I was gonna say.
Right? It's an interesting thought
Yeah.
because they don't seem to like abduct us and kill us. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they pointed out in many articles that after all, if he'd been left out in the woods that night, he would almost surely have died from exposure to the elements because it was very cold. It was at least like 8 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 13 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, that's pretty cold.
To be out there, and then they thought the friends weren't going to come back for him, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they're
So,
doing searches and stuff like that in the woods, they probably would have found him, or he would have died by, like, dehydration after 3 days instead of 5.
exactly. Like, they were probably baffled until he came back, being like, there's just no trace
Mm-hmm.
of him. Like, well,
Yeah.
like there is in some missing cases when people just up and disappear and never heard from again. It's, ooh. But this time he actually came back. Papers obviously loved this story, ran with it,
Yeah.
sensationalized it. But poor Travis was not loving being hounded by the media. They practically blanketed his hometown of Snowflake, Arizona. I couldn't resist.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's such an ironic name to be in Arizona in the first place, because I feel like Arizona
Yeah.
never gets snow, but it's
It's
also
true, it's true.
Snowflake.
I think it's actually named after a founder of the town
Oh,
or
okay.
something. Don't
That
ask
makes
me.
sense.
It sounds like something I might have heard on a podcast sometime, but I could not be sure where that factoid just came into my brain, but we'll go with it. He did his very best to avoid them, the press in general. And like in his own words, he had been in an almost catatonic state immediately following the experience, and it wasn't until the hypnosis regression that he started to feel a little better. So,
Mm.
but eventually, to try and appease the press that was practically stalking him, he agreed to do one interview with the National Enquirer.
Oh, not great.
Yeah. What, not the New York Times?
Yeah.
And MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, was around at the time, and they had a publication that's apparently now defunct called Skylook that did also do an article about Travis. And that in that one, he had expressed how very many pieces were published with so much misinformation about him.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. It's like, it's all a big game of telephone.
Yeah, it's pre-internet too. So it's, I don't know, did people mistrust the news more or less then when it was more just newspapers and stuff?
I feel like less people knew that they should mistrust newspapers.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, oh, it's a newspaper or a TV station, so like clearly they have to have some sort of credentials and could never tell me something that could be harmful.
Yeah, or wrong, or like blatantly false.
Totally. So this is sort of a fun fact. In 1976, Travis was flown to LA to be interviewed by Leonard Nimoy for a TV pilot.
Oh, Spock.
Yeah. Mr. Nimoy. William Bell to you French fans out there.
Yeah.
Yes, and Spock is to most of us too. And this did never actually get to air, but it was, funnily enough, going to be called either In Search of or The Unexplained.
Okay.
Yeah, which is like Shatner's show now, The Unexplained.
Yeah.
And at the time, Leonard Nimoy was asked about his belief in life on other planets, and he said, "I believe in UFOs because so many qualified observers and solid people have reported sightings that just can't be dismissed. I've talked with Travis Walton, a young Arizona man who claimed he was actually taken aboard a UFO. It was a bizarre story, but I feel he was being truthful." End quote.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'd be more shocked if there wasn't aliens than if there was. Like, they're just kind of... It's a very... What's the word?
Like likely or probable?
No, I just mean, like, for you to believe that we're the only... like species that's evolved over how many thousands of years to be this smart or self-aware is like
kind of narrow-minded.
Yeah, that it's absolutely in all the galaxies in the universe not possible to have happened one other single time. Like, the likelihood of that is just insane.
Oh yeah, I think it's becoming a lot more mainstream and accepted to say it now versus the minority it used to be where you were just completely discredited if you said anything almost. But
yeah, and it's not to say they're gonna be like humanoid or human looking in any way, but I mean, there has to be something like out there somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely have listened to things where they like try and, like, some study is try and quantify it in a way that says, well, actually, if we look at this based on this and this, then the probability is low. And you're like, well, actually, like, stick it up your ass. Like, what are you basing this on? Like, we really have nothing. We know nothing. We only know us.
Yeah, it's like, how many thousands and thousands of species do we have on Earth, and this is the only time this has ever happened? Like, it just seems so, like, weird.
Oh yeah, I agree, but they always be skeptics. Speaking of kind of a segue, the public found out that Travis was paid for his Enquirer interview, Which, like, he did an
Yeah.
interview. He got paid $5,000, whatever. Like, they got the story. Why shouldn't he be?
Yeah.
But they were like, well, that means it's totally a hoax.
No. I'm pretty sure people are probably paid for most interviews.
I mean, yeah, unless you're just like some little independent podcaster interviewing.
Yeah.
um, and there was a certain amount of conspiracy theories that I've, kind of heard of a little bit from time to time that had to do with the logging job they were on, like the logging site. They had a deadline to it, had to be finished in a certain amount of time, which they maybe weren't on track to meet. So people even speculated that it could have to do with trying to get out of a certain logging contract, which just also seems like such a stretch.
So aliens.
So we concocted this story, and then we hid him somewhere for 5 days. But even we didn't know where he was. Like, yeah, what?
Yeah.
I don't
And he
know.
possibly could have died. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So it did become a movie called Fire in the Sky.
Okay.
Yeah, you can watch it. I've watched it once, and although he said there's a lot of inaccuracies, it's not
Okay. I was just gonna say, how accurate is it though?
not completely inaccurate. Not completely inaccurate. They changed things like there's 5 guys on the pit crew instead of 7. Or like Travis talked about how they showed on the ship him having, or the actor having, like kind of this clear membrane over his face, but that was Travis was like, that was probably to show how I was having a bit of trouble breathing in the atmosphere on there. So like, some liberties
okay.
like that where he was like, I kind of get that because it's difficult to show without like a physical or sight, thing.
Mm-hmm.
So not horrible, but yeah, it opened on the 12th of March 1993, and at the time Travis and the driver Mike Rogers appeared on Larry King, which was their first major interview.
Oh wow.
So yeah, they did something other than the Inquirer.
Yeah.
And then it's not till, yeah, it's about 45 years after the incident that he goes on Joe Rogan, does the interview, and he does, interestingly enough, tell Joe how similar Bob Lazar's description of the spacecraft he saw was to the one Travis saw. So that was interesting.
Oh, okay.
He was like, you know what? That sounded like bang on to the one that I was on, kind of thing, because they were both in one, if we believe them. Yeah. And yeah, I really liked hearing a interview with him, like telling things in his own words, like,
Yeah, that's always good.
oh yeah, that's the best if you can get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was telling him what the movie got right and wrong, like I just talked about. Talked about how his brothers at the time of his abduction, one of them was convinced he was like lying dead somewhere in the logging site and was like
Oh,
searching for him under all these logs and brush piles and stuff. Just like pretty
that's
heartbreaking.
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. And he thought that his other brother, who had seen a UFO when he was a child, might have actually been the reason he had seemed to accept it a little easier, which I was like, holy shit, yeah, no kidding. But like they were, obviously the whole family was just so confused, and then even when he came back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Travis had detailed how when the craft was there and like before the beam hit him, there was like a log by the road that they were in that he like basically just tried to hide behind a log. Like
Oh,
it was like, oh my god.
probably won't help.
No. But it was just interesting to get all these little tiny details that just make it so much more real. I don't know. Yeah, he said he had even left the door open when he got out of the truck because he thought he would be right back. And I think he said consequently that the guy that had been sitting next to him, so I'm guessing Mike, because he was driving, that he had got skin cancer later due to the radiation that came into the truck, which was like, ugh, that sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was definitely other physical evidence that could be found in the area, like the trees had significant growth in the area. Like Mike, the driver, had actually gone and done his own little cut one of them and looked at the tree rings, and they had got super thick, like that the trees just started to be like real thick and buff after that. And some scientific analysis was done later on, I don't know, that showed accelerated growth, which apparently happened also in the Chernobyl area, which had weird trees after that incident. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they do talk about, like, after a forest kind of burns down, when it starts growing back again, it grows back, like, better and stuff than it was before.
Yeah, like, naturally, it's good for, like, forests to have fires, get rid of all the underbrush and growth.
Yeah. Not as many forest fires as we're having now or as bad, but
that's right.
They do kind of help the environment, but still not good for people or animals or anything.
No, we're probably messing up how they naturally occur.
Yes, for sure.
Some said that there were cattle mutilations in the area beforehand, and that might have been related. I don't know. The only time I've ever seen that mentioned in connection with UFOs is in the Skinwalker Ranch series / mystery, which is a real paranormal hotspot in the U.S. that, of course, there's a History Channel show on. And a lot of cattle mutilations happened, and they don't know what's going on there. It could be aliens. It could be skinwalkers. We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely other investigations have been performed over the years. At the time, there was a big organization called the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, the APRO, that did medical, psychiatric, hypnotic, and polygraph tests of their own. As well as well-known UFO enthusiasts like Ben Hansen looking into the case. He's on a show called The UFO Witness, which I should watch. He's a former federal agent that grew up watching The X-Files, has a background in crime scene investigation, and degrees in sociology and criminology.
Yeah, sounds legit.
And they were like, and he was, on his IMDb, he was on the Osbournes' Want to Believe. I'm like, I watched that when we were in Vegas at the hotel.
Oh.
With Ozzy Osbourne.
I was definitely asleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's often grouped together with the other two big, or like, these might be considered the big three abduction cases of the last century. The Barney and Betty Hill in 1961. Yep. The first American abduction case. And then also up there with the case of Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker in 73, which is also called the Pascagoula abduction.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
I think I have once or twice, because it wasn't until I heard the name Pascagoula that I was like, okay, I've heard of this place. But Travis's has the most witnesses out of all of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. He met Calvin Parker from the previous one I mentioned at a UFO conference in 2019, even though Parker stays the heck out of the public eye. And there's a picture of them together. Oh, look on the drive. There's a picture of them. Also a picture of Travis when he's younger with his big old mustache that he still has to this day, and a picture of him with the logging crew. Travis has said, quote, "If I had to do it all again, I wouldn't get out of the truck."
Yeah. I mean, getting out of the vehicle and walking towards the UFO is probably not a great thing to do.
Right? I think that's what made it so different from all the other cases. I think that's what was the variable. Yeah. He also became friends with Betty Hill, the husband of Barney, and they bonded. She knew what he was going through. Like a little UFO support group.
Yeah.
And to end it with some quotes from some of the other witnesses and some other notables. From John Goulet of the crew, "I know what I saw, and it wasn't anything of this earth." Kenny Peterson, "I saw a bluish light come from the machine, and Travis went flying like he'd touched a live wire."
Ooh. I could just imagine
Yeah.
it. Thankfully, he doesn't seem to remember that part, because I feel like that would be terrible feeling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, other than he's like, I think I might have, like, died a little bit there, and they saved me. But yeah, exactly. He doesn't really remember any pain, I don't think. Yeah. Dwayne Smith, another guy from the night. The UFO, oh shoot, this doesn't sound right. The UFO smooth. I must mean the UFO flew smoothly.
Oh, smooth.
Sorry. Yeah. And it was giving off a yellowish orange light. Mike Rogers, "I've been working these woods for over 30 years, and this is still the damnedest thing that has ever happened to me."
It was the damnedest thing.
It was the damnedest.
I love it when people say that.
Also, yeah, the autocorrect, it was like, "I don't think that's how you spell damnedest." And I was like, well, what you're giving me doesn't look right either.
Right?
So I'm going with it.
Yeah. I have autocorrect not set up on my, like, Word online, and then on my phone, I have it set up to not autocorrect, but sometimes it still does, and most of the time it does it to names, and I have to delete and retype the name 3 times before it just lets it be underlined and doesn't change it, and I'm like, thank you.
Yes, you have to, like, click it from the, if it brings it up, like, okay, you mean this as a suggestion?
No, it just, like, changes it. Like, I just go to the last one to hit space, and then it just changes the word, and I'm like, no!
Yes.
And it'll just keep doing that. Ugh.
Right. And it doesn't always, give you an option to save it. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've been trying to write Ressa with an R, and it autocorrects to Tessa.
Aww.
So many times. Alan Dalis, the one that got in the argument, said, "We couldn't believe what was happening. The horror was unreal." Steve Pierce, "The ray was the brightest thing I've seen in my whole life." And then the handful of quotes from some other people, not all of whom I looked up who the hell they were, but they were good quotes. So, James Fox. Yeah. Not Jamie Foxx, but James Fox said, "The best close encounter of the third kind in U.S. history, Travis Walton." I know, he sounds like a good spokesperson. And then this one's from Jeremy Corbell, who actually did one of the documentaries with Bob Lazar, so I would have talked about him a little bit in that episode. He's kept it real for 45 years. He's kept a good attitude. That's admirable, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then think this is another UFO type guy, because I've heard his name once or twice, Stanton Friedman, said the uniqueness of Travis's case is that there's certain aspects that you don't see in any other cases. For one, there were several other people who saw him being zapped. It wasn't one man's testimony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saw him being zapped.
Yeah, to get like 6 other people to basically for 45 years go along with something would be absolutely insane to accomplish.
Oh, totally. It's hard enough to get that many people together to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons or a book club. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just the more people, the more it has a chance to fall apart.
Yeah.
And then author Richard Dolan said, when you look at the Travis Walton case Travis Walton case, it's, okay, I'm missing some words again. It's a case of the more you look, the more you find, he said. You've got a very credible subject in Travis Walton. You've got 6 credible witnesses. You have a situation where the debunkers have tried to throw this out and they've failed every single time. It stood the test of time. And then Joe Rogan said, obviously I have no idea what happened, but his story is bizarrely compelling, and both he and his coworkers passed several polygraph tests. It was a fun conversation to have, and if he's telling the truth, we are not alone.
Yeah.
Yep. And at an event held for the 40-year anniversary a few years back, John Gillette said, it affected my life for about 2 weeks, but I went somewhere no one knew me or talked about the event. 4 out of 5 people in town let us know they didn't believe us. It's the opposite now. I realized about 3 years ago that a lot of people have had their own experiences.
Oh, and in that same town?
Yeah, or just in general, he's like, it's totally the opposite in that, yeah, to talk about, which is so cool to hear someone say that, even over their lifetime of having to live with being a witness.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny how the driver, Mike Rogers, who also didn't like the attention any more than Travis did, nicknamed Travis the Reluctant Celebrity. And then it was Travis, yeah, that said, I never liked the attention, but along with the burden comes a certain amount of responsibility. Lots of people are afraid to speak out about what happened to them. This helps them to be vindicated. And
Yeah.
Travis continued to live in the area after the fact, but one of the other members, Steve Pierce, changed his name and hid out for 30 years. He said, I've learned a lot about people from this.
Yeah, I mean, people can really show their colors in it,
Yeah.
and I can see that a lot of people would get harassed and stuff like that for it. So,
Oh, totally. Nobody ever asked for it, usually.
yeah.
And at that event for the 40-year anniversary, over 100 people gathered at the event, including Mike Rogers, who had never been to any such one before, but he attended at Travis Walton's request, said, I want to spend more time with them. We shared an experience that should have bonded us, but we spread out.
Yeah.
I know, I like that. And the actual area where the event happened was burned in the Rodeo Chediski fire. Speaking of fires. In 2002, and the logging road has been decommissioned by the Forest Service. So, all that remains is, like, Travis and the rest of the crew's memories now.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but that's my case, and he still hopes to someday learn, what the heck the aliens, purpose is before he dies.
Yeah. That's what I want to know. I mean, are we just like lab rats that they aren't doing anything too bad to? Like, why do
Yeah, it is weird how they, maybe they're tagging us and letting us back out into the wild or something.
Yeah. Are we the dolphins and whales of the rest of the universe?
Because he said, man, I used to think people say that you could be singled out by aliens. Like, that's like us singling out an ant. But he's like, over the years, I started to think, well, you never know. Maybe they do for that particular ant they're experimenting on or whatever. Like, because he's had other weird sort of experiences afterward that he can't explain, that he was really reluctant to even talk about on the interview. So,
well, they do that. They revisit animals and stuff like that to see how they react or
sure,
what's like in their subconscious after the first visit and things like that. So I can see that happening.
Yeah. Some animals get like used to it because they're been checked on so many times or they're being monitored.
Yeah. Oh, so creepy.
Well, thank you for listening. You want to hear one quick little review we got?
Yes. Let's hear some fabulous words.
I'm so excited. This came to us generously from the user Murder Squared podcast. So,
ooh, thank you.
Yes. Also a cool true crime podcaster. So I have checked them out before. They're pretty cool. But this was the first time I'd ever actually seen a review because Google fucking reviews are messed up for some reason. And
yeah, we've had some problems viewing some of them in the past. So
I don't know, it's dumb.
Yeah, sorry if you sent us a review and we haven't mentioned it before or anything.
No, it wouldn't let us see them. Anywho, hopefully now we have enough that it does. But she said, or they said, the host of the Murdered Squared said, I started listening on episode 22 and can't wait to binge the rest.
Lovely. What was episode 22? I need to know.
This one's a bit dodgy.
Oh, okay, that was a good episode to come in on.
UK.
Yeah.
Yes. They also said Alanna and Kelsey were cracking me up. Tackling such a dark true crime case with such ease and appropriate humor is a hard balance, and they nailed it. Keep up the great work, ladies. I can't wait for more. Michaela.
Aww, that's so nice.
That's like exactly what you want to hear as a true crime podcaster.
Yeah, sometimes I will say we feel like we laugh or like too much tangents for some of the episodes or things like that.
I think it's yeah. It depends on your taste, right? Because if you are that type that likes banter and humor with your true crime podcast, that as long as you do it right, you're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice when someone lets you know that you're doing it right.
Yeah, or they're enjoying it. Thank you for your review. It's so nice. We appreciate it.
Yes. And I also enjoyed their podcast, so go check out Murder Squared Podcast for more true crime tidbits.
Yeah, shout out.
Well, till next week, because we've taken up enough of our time and
not your time. We've never taken up enough of your time, but we've taken up too much of our own time. No,
well, they can always fast forward us.
Right? Just skip to the next week.
Skip to the loo, my darling. Yes. Yeah, so for episode 71, we're going on to some more true crime.
Yeah. We are tackling, like, very high kill counts of serial killers. We're trying to do people that have basically killed the most amount of people. That's, like, confirmed. Not people just randomly saying they did stuff, but, like... because there's a lot of that.
Posers.
But yeah, we're trying to find people that have, like, basically proven through, like, leading police to bodies and whatnot, or, like, specific details that they've been involved in an exceedingly high number of murders. So
yeah, and it's not always the most famous ones that have the most kills.
Absolutely
So,
not. So, it should be a very interesting episode. And
yeah.
yeah, our first.
Definitely more on the dark side, not the funny crime side, so.
No, no. And I think we figured out it's our first specific, like, serial killer episode. Um,
Oh yeah, just in general kind of serial killers.
yeah.
Yeah, not one specific one that we're both tackling. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Look at us
exactly.
go.
So, yeah.
It only took 70 episodes. Oh well, everybody's heard about all the major ones, I find. I don't know, but
Yeah, we're gonna do. At least the guy I'm doing, I had never heard of before. So, yeah.
no. Yeah, the highest ones are not, yeah, they're just lesser known sometimes, but still
Yeah.
gross. Still gross.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for listening.
Yes. Thank you for listening. Catch us next week. Bye.
Till then, keep it cryptic.
This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.